Your mama, don't come get my It's in the card, Mama.
It's in the crayon box, or close to it. It's good to see you up this morning. We're studying starting a lesson today about Moses. I was laughing about a week or two ago that Joseph's life and his readings was too big, I guess, or too much to talk about to finish in one class session. And it's kind of the same way with Moses. What I was thinking, if you open your Bibles to Genesis, there is, Exodus 1. I have it already for Genesis again. And probably going to break it up. I don't know if I'll get the first 40 years. I know I'll get the first 40. Maybe the second 40. And then the last 40 I'm going to try to do the next week. In the, I think both were on page 24. What's one of the first things that you can remember when someone says the name Moses? What's one of the first things that comes to mind? Ten Commandments. Charlton Heston, the movie, Ten Commandments. That's probably one of our first visual thoughts, I guess, about Moses. A leader, a great man. Obeying God, following God, several battles he had to deal with, several different issues he had to work through. What's something else you remember? What was one of his, in his early life, what was one of his occupation? Shepherd. So he worked with sheep. He moved. I think one lesson we're going to read today, he moved in doing his job as a shepherd. He'd been through some of the areas of the wilderness that the children of Israel will be led out through when they come out of Egypt. Here in Exodus, we're also going to read about an issue or a problem that he had that made him have to leave Egypt. What was that issue that he had to leave Egypt? He was afraid of something. What had he done? What did Moses do that made him have to leave Egypt? He killed the Egyptian. And he thought he'd done it in secret, but some of his Israelites mentioned it as he was trying to settle a dispute between them. And then he realized that what he had known, and he had to leave for fear of being killed himself. What's a negative about Moses? What's one of the things that he did, we'd say, incorrectly or wrong?
What's that again?
What's one of the things that you remember Moses did wrong?
He spoke to the rock. He struck it to the spirit. God said, speak to it, he struck it.
But the first time what did God tell him to do? First time God told him to do what to the rock? Well, the first time. rock and water come forth and fed the Christ, or fed the cattle and all the people. Second time, God told him to speak to the rock. That little difference when he spoke to the rock the second time was disobedience to God. A lot of people say that might be nitpicking. Well, if God commands us today to do something, and we don't do it exactly right to the best of our ability, we've sinned. Likewise, Moses, when he did that, we'll get into it later. Maybe toward the end of this lesson. Just that one little thing, it was a lot easier just to speak to the rock and made water flow forward. And he didn't get to see the land of Canaan because of that. That's a good parallel for us to think about the details that we have in our lives. What we do, what we don't do, what we say, where we go, even what we think about people, especially other Christians and our family and friends, could determine if we make it to heaven or not. Something for us to think about. In the book on page 24, Moses means drawn out, a reference to the child Moses being drawn out of the water. He was the greatest lawgiver the world has ever known, a national hero who delivered the Israelites from Egyptian slavery, led them in the wilderness, prepared them to be an independent nation. When Moses lived, his dependent upon the date of the Exodus. On the basis of the early date of Exodus, he was born around 1520 BC. Though some scholars date the Exodus of around 1225 BC. So sometime over 1,000 years before Christ was when this was taking place. Moses was born of Israelite parents in the land of Egypt. The nation had been enslaved. All the boy babies were being executed. Moses was kept by his parents for 3 months, hidden among the reeds near the river, and discovered by Pharaoh's daughter. For 3 months, they hid this baby. They hid Moses. How easy was that? How hard is it to go from delivering a child to having a child for 3 months and no one knows about it? Probably was very trying, I guess is a good name for it. Very difficult at best. But his parents had done that. Then we know the story. His mother actually ends up being his nurse and helping to raise the child, which we can talk about the prophets of God working there. Taken to the royal court, spent the first 40 years of his life there, and Moses was instructing skilled in the wisdom of the Egyptians, Acts 7:22. Royal heirs and tributary princes from all over the world at this time were trained in Egypt. Moses may have had classmates as far north as the Euphrates River. That's the opening 2 paragraphs on page 24. Yeah. Educated, best education in the world. Being raised in Pharaoh's house. He had it made, you might say. He had everything you ever wished for, if you think about it. And later on, we're going to read that he made a choice to suffer instead of be blessed, take the life of ease. Back in Exodus chapter 1, Sandra, go ahead and read. Let's go ahead and start. Just read the first chapter of Exodus together. It'll read as many as you want and pass it on tomorrow. Exodus chapter 1, just after the New King comes in.
Now these are the names of the children of Israel, which came to Egypt, every man in his household named Jacob. Reuben, Simeon, Levi, Judah, Issachar, Zebulun, Benjamin, Dan, Naphtali, Gad, and Asher. All the souls that came out of the house of Jacob were 70 souls, and Joseph was finished already. And Joseph died, and all his brethren, and all of that generation. And the children of Israel were fruitful and increased abundantly, and multiplied, and waxed exceedingly mighty, and the land was filled with them. Now there arose up a new king over Egypt, which knew not Joseph. And he said unto the people, behold, the people of the children of Israel are more and mightier than we. Come on, let us deal wisely with them, as they multiply. And it came to out any more, the Jordan also looked to our enemies and fight against us, so we give them up out of the land.
Therefore did they say unto them, taskmasters of him, the Robertsons. They built for Pharaoh treasure cities, Pithom and Ramses. But the more they afflicted him, the more they multiplied and grew. They had trees and caused the children of Israel. And the Egyptians made the children of Israel to serve the river, and they made their lives bitter and hard bondage, and poor and free, and all manner of services to field. All their servants wherein they made them serve was the river. The king of Egypt spake to the healer of midwives, which name of one was Shipra, and the name of the other Pura. He said, when ye do the office of midwife to the healer of women, and see them upon the stools, be it son, ye shall kill him. But if it be a daughter, then she shall live. But the midwives feared God, not as the king of Egypt commanded them, but saved them child alive. The king of Egypt called for the midwives and said unto them, I have done this thing and have saved them children alive. And the midwives said to Pharaoh, because the Hebrew women are not as the Egyptian women, for they are lawful and deliberate, ere the midwives come in unto them. Therefore God will with midwives, and people multiply, waxing very long.
And it came to pass, because the midwives feared God, that he made them houses, and Pharaoh charged all the people, saying, every son that is born, ye shall cast into the river, and every daughter shall stay alive.
Thank you. So here's the first chapter of Exodus. What does verse 8 say? New king.
Not Joseph.
United Joseph, didn't know what Joseph was even done or who he was. His brothers had died, verse 6, and all that generation. So one generation later, basically, the new king arises in Egypt and doesn't know Joseph. Obviously doesn't know God. And they're a little paranoid because the numbers multiply. You can kind of see the politics happening there. Even today, if the group multiplies and becomes strong, then the ones that are in power become paranoid about it. Hasn't changed much in several thousand years. The land of Egypt, the burdens they put on, they built cities for the pharaohs. Think about all the, talk about the mortar and the bricks that they carry. Do we have any evidence that this ever happened? What's some physical evidence that this happened? The city of, what's at these cities today? Pyramids? Is that what they built? Sphinx. Several of the seven wonders of the world, I think, are in Egypt. This is what they were cursed with as far as what they were caused to do. Not really cursed, but as they were slaves, the Egyptians came with this idea to keep basically making their task harder and harder and harder, and trying to slow them down, and it didn't. Even down where we just finished separating, the king spake to the Hebrew midwives, and as the men-child were born, killed them, stopped them from multiplying. And we just read how the midwives basically said that their women are different than the Egyptians, and they already are delivered, so they therefore God dealt with the midwives, and the people multiplied and waxed very mighty. 22. Pharaoh charged all of his people, every son that is born he shall cast into the river. No telling how many thousands of male child babies, men, male babies were thrown into the river, murdered because they were afraid they'd take over and join the enemy if there was a war. But
would you comment on the 2-2 when you saw he was a goodly child?
It's not in my cross reference. Good to child. You can say strong, good looking. We go with that.
What do you think, Nate? How would he be good to you?
Says beautiful.
Yeah, beautiful. So, in the mother's eyes, all babies are perfect, but in this one, truly was a goodly child, as you referred to. It is, verse 1 talks about, if you look at chapter 2, verse 1, it says, and there went a man out of the house of Levi, and took to wife the daughter of Levi. And the woman conceived and bare a son, and she saw him, that he was a goodly child. She hid him for 3 months. And when she could no longer hide him, she took for him an ark of bulrushes, and dabbed it within with slime and with pitch, and put the child therein. And she laid him in the flags or the reeds by the river's bank. And his sister stood afar off to witness or with what was done to him. And the daughter of Pharaoh came down to wash herself at the river, and her maidens walked along the riverside. And when she saw the ark in the flags, she sent her maiden to fetch it. And when she had opened it, she saw the child, and behold, the babe wept. And she had compassion on him and said, this is one of the Hebrews' children. Then said his sister to Pharaoh's daughter, shall I go call thee a nurse of Hebrew women, that she may nurse the child for thee? And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, go. And the maid went and called the child's mother. And Pharaoh's daughter said to her, take the child away and nurse it for me, and I will give thee thy wages. And the woman took the child and nursed it. This young sister of Moses, does she come back up in the Bible anywhere else? She does. At a young age, as a girl, she talked to Pharaoh's daughter, saw what was happening. Doesn't say she hesitated, doesn't say she was afraid for her life, but went and said, do you want me to help you find a nurse for this baby because the baby's crying? If you're not a mother, a baby crying is very nerve-wracking. From a father's standpoint, sometimes a baby crying is very nerve-wracking. And this was if you think about the Pharaoh's daughter, probably didn't really know how to take care of a baby. We're not told much about her either, but it worked out to where Moses' mother was put in charge to nurse him, bring him up, raise him, and later the child, in verse 10 says the child grew, and she brought him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son, and she called his name Moses because I drew him out of the water. And it came to pass in those days when Moses was grown, he went out to his brethren and looked upon their burdens, and he spied the Egyptians fighting Hebrew, one of his brethren, and he looked this way and that way, and when he saw that there was no man, he slew the Egyptian and hid him in the sand. And when he went out the second day, behold, 2 men of the Hebrews strove together, and he said to him that did wrong, wherefore smitest thou thy fellow? And he said, who made thee a prince and judge over us? Didst thou kill me like thou killed the Egyptian? And Moses feared and said, surely this thing is known. Now when Pharaoh heard this thing, he sought to slay Moses, but Moses fled to the front face of Pharaoh and dwelt in the land of Midian. And he sat down by a well. Pretty short life, I think explained here in these 15 verses, of being born, being hid, being nursed by his mother, but then being taken back to Pharaoh's daughter, being raised as her child, and then in 11 to 12, seeing his brethren, his Egyptian slaying a Hebrew, one of his brothers. Physical differences, you can tell this child was one of the Hebrew children, obviously, and as he grew, he still had compassion on the Hebrew nation, on the Israelites, and here he killed an Egyptian. He knew there was a difference. He could tell it. He could see their burdens. I think it was read where looked upon their burdens, verse 11. He could see that they were being mistreated. Basically took it in his own hand to do something different. It's also another thing we could have listed as the things that Moses did that.
How many on Hebrews 11? 23.
11:23.
Great. Hebrews 11.
We know this is the differences in the list of the Hall of Fame of faith. Verse 11, chapter 11, verse 23. By faith, Moses, when he was born, was hid 3 months by his parents because they saw he was a proper child, and they were not afraid of the king's command. His parents, I think that's referring more to his parents than actually to Moses. Moses, being a child, didn't do that, but his mother and father did. So by faith, they knew that they wanted to keep him alive. And then 24 tells us by faith, Moses, when he came years because the son of Pharaoh's daughter, choosing rather to suffer affliction of the people of God, than to enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. That pleasures of sin for a season still attacks, I guess, Christians today. It's still tempting to be part of the world in many places, many times, many things that we like or would like to do.
What do you think they meant by it? Because they saw he was a proper child.
Well, one of the cross references is godly in my cross reference. Godly. And they were not afraid or dismayed because of the King's commandments. So, serve God rather than man. Another verse that comes to mind. That's what his parents were doing.
If you look at 7:20, the seed fair, cross reference. It says fair to God. So it was seed fair to God. I don't think we can ever get all that figured out. You?
I think we're kind of taking a high-level approach to it, but I think you're right. As far as the details,
I think it means they saw that he was God given.
a blessing from God.
That explains why he was a prophet child. That explains why they were not afraid of the king's commandment. Because they believed he was God given. I should have brought it up.
No, that's fine. I mean, this is in the several of these verses we're going to read are referenced in this lesson. 26 is esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than treasure of Egypt. How is Moses esteeming the reproach of Christ greater riches than treasure of Egypt? Christ wasn't even on the scene or born at that time. But he was the promise. I mean, if you go back and look at all the people that we've been reading about, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, all Joseph, all this leads toward Christ. He is the promise. He is the Savior. He is the one that's his way is being prepared, his will. God's watching over them, making sure things are done, keep that lineage still alive, still going, and moving throughout the Old Testament. Through faith, he forsook Egypt, verse 27 in Hebrews 11, not fearing the wrath of the king, for he endured as seeing him who is invisible. Seeing God, being spoke to several times by God, actually, and through faith. He kept the Passover, verse 28, and the sprinkling of blood, lest he that destroyed the firstborn should touch them. he kept the original Passover with the children of Israel in Egypt, and then they came out. A lot of things that he did we classify him as a great man of faith, even though that he did several times prove that he was human, prove that he had made mistakes, but continued to work God's will, if you will, like about his faith. Last part of chapter 2 says, Now the priest of Midian had 7 daughters. They came to drink water and filled troughs with water their father's flocks. And the shepherds came and drove them away. But Moses stood up and helped them and watered their flock. And when they came to Reuben their father, he said, How is it that you are come so soon to us? And they said, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds, and also drew water enough for us and watered the flock. And he said unto his daughters, And where is he? And why is it that ye have left the man? Call him that he may eat bread. And Moses was content to dwell with this man, and he gave Moses for his daughter. She bare him a son, and he called him Gershon. For he said, I have been a stranger in a strange land. And it came to pass, in the process of time, that the king of Egypt died, and the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, And the children of Israel sighed by reason of the bondage, and they cried. And their cry came up to God by reason of the bondage. God heard their groaning, and God remembered his covenant with Abraham and with Isaac and Jacob. And God looked upon the children of Israel, and God had respect on them. When God had respect in this place, in this passage, God remembered them. God remembered that his plan, his oath, his covenant with Moses or Abraham needed to be kept with Moses later. One of the things I read there I wanted to ask about. Earlier we read where Moses slayed the Egyptian. Then he talked about the Hebrew brethren were dwelling together. And in verse 19 it says, An Egyptian delivered us out of the hand of the shepherds. So for all practical purposes, Moses in this case, in this time, he appeared to be like an Egyptian. What he was wearing, probably how he was dressed, how his hair was, maybe his speech, we don't know. But to them, he appeared to be an Egyptian that had come out of Egypt. Chapter 3 is one of the, the initial calling of Moses, you might say. Bobby, we'll kick off chapter 3 and just read the first 6 verses for us, if you will.
And then Moses kept the flock of Jethro, his father-in-law, priest of Midian, and he led the flock on the backside of the desert and came to the mountain of God, even in Horeb. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush, and he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed. And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight on the bush is not burned. And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and said, Moses, Moses. And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nigh hither, pull off thy shoes from thy feet, for this place wherein thou standest is holy ground. Moreover, he said, I am the God of thy fathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, the God of Jacob. And Moses hid his face, for he was afraid to look upon God.
Appearing in the burning bush, the bush that didn't burn up, obviously hiding his face. There's going to be several instances where Moses is in the presence of God. Obviously later on, when the Ten Commandments are given, he is actually on the mountain. There are different physical changes that take place in his presence because he was in the presence of God. But here is as far as we know, the initial calling might say, of Moses to perform what God's will would be. Verse 7 says, "And the Lord said, I have surely seen the affliction of my people that are in Egypt, and have heard their cry by reason of their taskmasters, for I know their sorrows. And I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up out of the land, and to the good land, a large and a land flowing with milk and honey, unto the place of the Canaanites, and Hittites, and Amorites, and Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites. Now therefore, behold, the cry of the children of Israel is come unto me, and I have also seen the oppression whereof the Egyptians oppressed them. Come now therefore, and I will send thee unto Pharaoh, that thou mayest bring forth my people, the children of Israel, out of Egypt. And Moses said unto God, Who am I, that I should go to Pharaoh, and what I should bring forth the children, and that I should bring forth the children out of Egypt? That phrase, have you ever thought about that phrase ourselves? When we look at doing something, what's one of the first things? Human nature hasn't changed much, has it? What's some of the things we start doubting? Who am I? How am I supposed to do this? We leave out what verse 12 says. And he said, Certainly I will be with thee, and this shall be the token unto thee that I have sent thee. When thou hast brought forth the people out of Egypt, ye shall serve God upon this mountain. And Moses said to God, Behold, when I come to the children of Israel, shall say unto them, the God of your fathers have sent me unto you. They shall say unto me, What is his name? What shall I say to them? And God said to Moses, I am that I am. And he said, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, I am hath sent me unto thee. And God said moreover unto Moses, Thus shalt thou say unto the children of Israel, The Lord God of your fathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, hath sent me unto you. And this is my name forever. And this is my memorial to all generations. Go and gather the elders of Israel together, and say unto them, The Lord God of your fathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, appeared unto me, saying, I am surely visiting you, and seen that which was done to you in Egypt. And I have said, I will bring you up out of the affliction of Egypt into the land of the Canaanites, the Hittites, the Amorites, and the Perizzites, as he repeats what I read earlier. They shall hearken to my voice, thy voice. And we read about the different things there. We hope they will not believe me, verse 1. They will not hearken to my voice. For they will say, The Lord hath not appeared to me. And what is in thy hand? God asked. A rod. And God said, Cast it on the ground. When he cast the rod on the ground, it became a serpent. And Moses fled from before it. Another trait that most of us are like Moses. Our first reaction to a serpent or a snake is to run. Get away from it. And the Lord said to Moses, Put forth thy hand and take it by the tail. What's wrong with that statement? Oh, you snake handlers. What do you do when you grab a snake by the tail? That's the wrong end. It can still bite you. It can spin around, wrap around your neck, it can kill you. So you had to have a lot of faith in what God was saying. Knowing that was your rod, you just threw down and became a serpent. And then the Lord tells you to put forth the hand, take it by the tail. He put forth his hand, he caught it, and it became a rod in his hand. That they may believe that the Lord God of your fathers, God of Abraham, God of Isaac, God of Jacob, hath appeared unto thee. So it was a sign. This rod will come up later in Egypt. And you'll carry it several times in the battle. We're going to read about that. Basically as a witness that God was with them. And something a lot for us to, I think, be strengthened. And as we look back at Moses and what he did, here in these first 4 chapters even, he's becoming a man of faith. A man that would lead the children of Israel out. If you look back in the book on page 25, Moses' first attempt to aid the people ended in failure. While trying to pacify 2 failure Israelites, he was reminded that he had killed an Egyptian. He led the land of Egypt and he spent 40 years. He found favor in the priesthood named Jethro and married his daughter Zipporah. As a shepherd, he gained first-hand geographical knowledge of the territory near the Gulf of Aqaba in the region that he would one day lead the great nation of Israel. God called Moses from the burning bush and assured him of his divine support in leading Israel out of Egypt. He revealed himself to Moses as the great I am, who was about to redeem his promise to Israel, the land of Canaan, Exodus 3:14. Accompanied by his wife and his 2 sons, Moses returned to Egypt. In a series of 10 plagues, Moses and Aaron countered Pharaoh's attempt to keep Israel in bondage. Finally, the last plague brought judgment from all the gods of Egypt, and firstborn sons were slain throughout the land. On the eve of Israel's departure from Egypt, the Passover feast was observed. Exodus 12. This became an annual Jewish celebration. Moses led the Israelites, numbering about 600,000 men, plus women and children, out of Egypt and through the Red Sea. Exodus 14. A pillar of cloud and a pillar of fire by night overshadowed and guided them. God going before them and after them, watching over them as they went, obviously, through the Red Sea. We already made kind of reference to the movie, the 10 Commandments. As we grew up, many of us, this was some of the fascinating stories we had in Bible class. The burning bush, God speaking to Moses, the Red Sea, going across on dry land. There have been a lot of people who try to dispute that. A lot of scientists try to disallow it, but that's what the Bible says. That's what we believe. There's even, I think, some people now that think that it was a natural occurrence, but it was anything but natural. We know that through what we read and what we believe in the Bible. The 10 plagues that we talked about, we'll probably stop right there. I'm not going to go into when the children have come out. Several times we read in here Pharaoh talking with Moses and Aaron. Pharaoh's heart is hardened. What does that mean?
Callous.
Can our hearts be callous? Can our hearts be callous today? Can we harden our hearts? We can.
Kind of like when I speak to my wife.
Well, maybe a little different level than that, but yeah.
It's a great comment on it.
Yes, sir. We control our hearts today. We control what we say, what we do, where we go. We can harden our hearts. Several times in here, we're going to read where God calls Pharaoh's heart to be hardened. Does that mean that God forced Pharaoh to make the decisions he made?
I think he had free will.
If he didn't,
I think he hardened his heart, but
if he didn't, then
what's there?
yeah. The plagues will go ahead and if you think about read that, fill out the lessons, the questions on the page 26 and 27 for next week. Number 1, how about the parents? Jethro and Jacob. Let's see, who were the parents of Moses? Amram and Jephthah. What does the name Moses signify? Drawn out of the river or out of the water. Was Moses a well-educated man? He was educated at that time by the best of the best in Egypt as Pharaoh's daughter's child. What choice did Moses make? We read in Hebrews 25, to suffer with the children of God rather than enjoy the pleasures of sin for a season. I think on that note, I'll stop today. Pleasures of sin for a season. No matter how old we get, how long we live, there's a lot of temptation that we have to face. But know what we're looking for. Know what the goal is. Keep looking for that. And like Moses, also know God's with us. Many times I think we forget, maybe in our prayers, and a lot of times in our lives, that God is actually with us, watching us, and helping. Appreciate your comments and reading. We'll pick it up there in the middle of that and finish out this lesson. We'll go next week, carrying through the plagues and then all into the wilderness wanderings. There's going to be several things to talk about there. About the children of God and what they did, even though they were being led by God. How they turned and what they complained about. Lord's willing, that there next week. Thank you.
Good morning.